folks. I thought today that I would show you how to pick the perfect fabric for the individual piece of furniture that you will be upholstering. I have a lot of questions about various types, patterns, wearability, durability, fire code. There's so many questions that go along. Today I'm only going to be answering hopefully those questions. I'm not going to be going into color so much. That's a whole nother category of finding the right fabric for the right piece. So let's get going. So here we go. One of the first things that I should say about picking fabric is that picking from a recognized name, brand name from a book, you know all the information about that particular fabric. Whereas if you go to a fabric store, a remnant store, etc., you will not have any labeling on those fabrics. So you really buyer beware there. You do not know what you're getting. So for instance, I'll read this description of this fabric. It's 55 inches wide, the fabric, 70% polyester, 30% cotton. I personally like a mix like that from a workability standpoint, which I'll get into in a little while in this video. It's got an acrylic back. It tells you the repeat. It's an approximate repeat, vertical 1 inch. By the way, I should show you. This is the diamond-shaped fabric that I'm reading. Horizontal 1.5 inches, Teflon finish, which some people like, some people don't. I'll explain that in a minute. This is a cleaning code S, which is solvent cleaning, which is a good cleaning code. It's shown railroaded. So you see how much information. It's also one more important thing. It's a heavy duty, 50,000 double rub, and that's a double rub test in the industry. 50,000, it means the machine just rubs the fabric back and forth 50,000, and then they start getting threadbare after 50,000. That's an excellent DR rating on that particular fabric. So there you have it from a book. You have all this information. Now I want to talk a little bit more about application. Okay, so now style-wise on furniture, you really have to consider what you're upholstering and the fabric that you're going to use. For instance, on this semi-attached ottoman here, you wouldn't want to put a stripe on this, for instance, because the stripe will be coming this way. You have to run the stripe all one way, and then at some point you're going to have intersecting stripes, which I don't think would look great at all. A good fabric for that would be a solid. If it's geometric, unlike this one's a diamond, but it's not symmetrical, so you wouldn't necessarily want to use this one either for the semi-attached ottoman. So you really have to be careful. An overall would be fine. This would be considered an overall pattern for this one in particular. Same thing would apply for the chair here. You have to be careful that you don't want anything to intersect that doesn't look correct. And that will happen here. The stripe would be coming this way, and then you'd have a stripe coming this way. You wouldn't want to run the stripe this way. Okay, so that chair. Manufacturers oftentimes will pick a solid fabric for furniture like this. You'll notice that if you go hunting for new furniture. So chenilles are popular, but they also, you have to consider that chenilles have a nap like velvet. So when you put a chenille, you can use a chenille in my opinion on a semi-attached ottoman, but you have to, or velvet, but you have to, consider the different shades of the nap on that. You see it more on something that has 4 sides. So you're limited to these on what you can put in. Patterns might not even be a good idea, like floral patterns might not be a good idea for that. So when you get into your bigger pieces, you have more options for patterns, because you have, it's just a different shape, and you don't see all 4 sides like an ottoman. So for instance, on this club chair, this fabric would be fine, 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 this fabric, almost every single fabric in here, patterns and textures, would work well with a chair like this. Now, when you get into your bigger pieces, you certainly can use floral patterns, but the more floral pattern you use, the more of a job the upholsterer, a master upholsterer hopefully, would do. He'd have to match flowers to all these cushions. It's a little bit of a task for an upholsterer, but any good upholsterer would be able to use floral patterns in any piece of furniture, except, like I said, you might not want to use it in the semi-attached ottoman. So now I want to talk a little bit about pliability. A lot of people don't consider that when they buy fabric. And folks, I should tell you that A lot of these end stores that have really inexpensive fabrics, they're not going to have the labeling. They're probably not going to be Teflon coated. They're probably not going to be Cal 117 graded if you're doing commercial work. They have to be. And they're going to have a very chemical backing to them. So in other words, they're going to be very, very unpliable or firm, okay? Most all of these fabrics here have a good pliability except for this one, okay? This one has a cotton knit backing. And if you're looking for something soft on a beautiful French settee, that's not the fabric to use. These other fabrics really have a good flexibility to them. That one, for instance, is good. This one, just to see that, I don't know if you can see that, how that kind of stretches both ways. I know that would go on nice. That would make a good skirt on a chair. It would drop nice. So I'll go through each one of these. This is a wool. Wool sometimes stretch too far one way, so you have to be a little bit more challenged, and it doesn't stretch this way. So that's a little bit more of a challenge, that fabric. This is a very good fabric, diamond shape, very classic, and it has a good pliability both ways. Woven all the way through, folks. That's what you want to see when you go buy fabric. You want to see it woven through. If it's not woven through, it has a chemical backing, that's not a good fabric. Very inexpensive fabric. Might do the job. Ultra Suede's a different, I have a funny feeling about Ultra Suedes. When I first look at an Ultra Suede package that comes to me and they say, here, upholster it, I'm a little hesitant at first, but then I'm always pleasantly surprised. Ultra Suede usually does make up nice, except in skirts and cushions sometimes you have a hard time. So that might not be a greatest fabric. A velvet is always a classic, a good classic fabric to use on most furniture. Let's see, patterns. I want to talk a little bit about patterns. These represent two fabrics that have small patterns, okay? Very small patterns, which would go better on a smaller piece of furniture. You wouldn't want necessarily to put a small pattern on a very large sofa. You're looking for something with a bigger pattern, if I can find one. Well, this would be probably a medium pattern. It repeats itself. This repeats itself probably about down here. That's about a 6-inch repeat. So that might be more for a medium-sized chair, okay? Trying to find a good example. I actually have a cotton cloth in here, which I don't have a lot of cotton cloths, but this is a print. Okay, on print, you can see it's not a woven, it's print, okay? So you're not gonna have that coming through the back as a woven. So you have to expect that this is not gonna last as long as one of these upholstery fabrics. So this is a slipcover / upholstery fabric. So, but what you get with these is huge patterns, which some people like on their huge furniture. But you definitely wouldn't want to put a big pattern like this on a small ottoman or even a small chair. I don't think it would look right. So I think I covered a lot. Of course, the challenge after you get your yardage, if you're the upholsterer or if you're upholstering on your own, the challenge is it's like a puzzle sometimes, especially if you have a pattern, and when you're cutting your fabric, you need to make sure you cut. If you've seen in some of my previous videos where I'm showing you all the measurements, you get it all measured first, and then you have to fit all those measurements into the pattern fabric, and then you have to make it look. The idea here, the trick here, is after the piece is done, that it looks like it's graceful. It just flows perfectly over the piece of furniture. You've done a good job if your eye doesn't get stuck on anything. If you're looking at a piece of furniture from the left to the right and then from the floor up, and you just glance over it, and that's it, that's a good job. If your eye stops at something, even if you don't understand why your eye stopped, if there's something, it's perceiving something wrong, it means that one of your patterns is off, or upside down, or sideways, whatever. But be very careful. Of course, I think we have another video. We will do another video about pattern matching. So I hope that was informative, and it's a lot of information, I know, but I hope that helps people. Thank you.